What's up, everybody? A to Z Sports. I'm Austin Stanley. We're off this week for the 4th of July week in the last vacation. Around this time a year ago, we were having conversations about Ryan Tannehill being a potential fringe top 10 quarterback. He's not that anymore. So where did Chris Sims rank Ryan Tannehill in his quarterback rankings going into this season? And how did Zach and I feel about those rankings? That's what we're talking about today. And we'll see you guys again July 11th. Today, it's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can join the Farm Bureau Health Plan family by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. Better coverage, better rates, better service, truly, for your health plans. fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Is Ryan Tannehill ranked too high, too low, or just right in Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks of 2022 list?
So two guys that I think are right there ahead of Ryan Tannehill that I could argue Tannehill is better than are Matt Ryan and Kyler Murray. And Deshaun Watson, we just haven't seen him in a long time. We don't know when we're going to see him yet, but last time we did see him, Deshaun Watson was a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill and has a higher ceiling. We all know that. Kyler Murray is an interesting one. You know, head-to-head, the Cardinals whooped up on the Titans in week 1. But the Cardinals do this thing where they fall off the face of the earth after Thanksgiving every year. And I don't know if it's a Cliff Kingsbury problem. I don't know if it's a Kyler Murray problem where he wears down physically because he runs around so much September, October, November, and he can't stick through December and January to be effective. I don't know if I would take Ryan Tannehill over Kyler Murray because I trust Ryan Tannehill more late in the year because every year, Kyler Murray's either hurt or losing games he shouldn't late in the season.
Well, also you have to disclose Kyler Murray did not have his top paid wide receiver, which is DeAndre Hopkins.
That's fine.
For most of the end of the year, including the playoff game.
Right. And I understand. And Tannehill had his guys for the playoff game, but Ryan Tannehill was able to win games and do enough without those guys too. Like A.J. Brown had a down year.
He had the luxury of getting his guys back against the Bengals.
I understand. And again,
I just think that's a huge, DeAndre Hopkins is a top 5 wide receiver.
No doubt. And A.J. Brown was on that trajectory to being top 10. A.J. wasn't right last year for most of the year. He only had 5 games where he had over 50 yards throughout the entire season, not counting the playoffs.
Julio Jones, your boy J.J. Watt was out.
Yeah, Julio Jones, we all know that story. So a lot of the times that Ryan, and he had no tight end help. He was also sacked the second most of any quarterback in the NFL behind Joe Burrow. So the offensive line was not very good. And you can look at some other stats and show that Ryan Tannehill doesn't create his own pressure like Kyler Murray does. I right now would put Kyler Murray just below Tannehill. And when it comes to Matt Ryan, and this is where the juice is of this conversation, because Matt Ryan, an older quarterback, a former league MVP. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's thrown for a ton of yards throughout his career. As Kaibachi just says, 4,000 yards in 10 straight seasons. But, you throw for a lot of yards when your defense sucks and you're giving up a lot of points and you have no running game in Atlanta. But he is changing into a new franchise. And so do you automatically bump Matt Ryan ahead of Tannehill, where Tannehill's got the continuity and Matt Ryan doesn't? And so that's the closest conversation to me. So to answer the question, I will say Ryan Tannehill slightly too low.
Wow. I didn't know what you're going to say.
Slightly.
I think this is absolutely, and here's my answer. I think Chris Sims, or I don't think his top 10 is correct. I do think this section of the list is right. Okay. Matt Ryan should be above Ryan Tannehill for what I think the unknown, on paper, new team, and Matt Ryan has done more in his career than Ryan Tannehill. I also think that's just right, is Ryan Tannehill should be above Kirk Cousins. What I always say,
sure.
Ryan Tannehill is the Kirk Cousins of the AFC. Kirk Cousins is the Ryan Tannehill of the NFC. So perfectly slotted right there. I think Ryan Tannehill is better than Baker Mayfield, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And I agree with what you said earlier. Jimmy G should be above Carson Wentz at least. The reason why I wanted to bring this up on the show, and I told you about this whenever it first came out last week, I loved where he slotted Ryan Tannehill. I think the chat got it right. I think Chris Sims got it right. This makes perfect sense to me. He is in the middle of the pack. That's why I go crazy when everybody's sitting there like, Ryan Tannehill's ceiling is too low for what the Tennessee Titans want to accomplish with the roster that they have. They're not built that way. Ryan Tannehill needs a higher ceiling for Derrick Henry and the other players to take the Titans to where they want to be. And that in itself is winning a Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, it's an AFC championship game appearance. Once you get into that game, really all the Titans are trying to do, and I think all they can do with the roster that they have, is get to the AFC championship game. And I don't think they have the quarterback to get them to what they need to do, and that's winning a Super Bowl.
And again, like, I'm not over here arguing that Ryan Tannehill needs to be top 10. Like,
well, he's not, right?
No, yeah, because he crapped the bed last year, where last summer we had a legitimate argument to say Ryan Tannehill should be 9 or 10, right? We had those shows last year, but Tannehill had a bad year, right? 22 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Now there's a lot of variables that go into that, but he had the opportunity in the playoffs and crapped the bed the most there with the 3 interception game against the Bengals. Also variables there too, but a lot on Ryan Tannehill. And so I think the highest he should possibly be is like 13th, the absolute highest. But
Austin, I'll say this. After the performance he had against Cincinnati, you cannot morally put him at 13.
Well,
that would be an indictment.
But again, like, well, you've got directly above him, you have 3 quarterbacks who have one guy who didn't play last year, one guy who didn't make the playoffs last year on one of the worst teams in the league, and then Kyler Murray, who was on the last undefeated team and then fell off a cliff, right? So you've got 3 quarterbacks directly ahead of him that you can make arguments. Deshaun Watson, we don't know what to expect with Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson is suspended for a year, which
then
sounds
it's a moot
like
point. I mean,
yeah, I know, but again, like,
Deshaun Watson's better than Matt Ryan and Ryan Tannehill.
I agree. That's why I said, but without him playing for 2 years, you remove him from the equation, and then guess who slots up one more? Ryan Tannehill does. So again, he's at the absolute highest, 13th, but I say he's slightly too low. I think 14th is that right?
He could be 14th if Deshaun gets suspended. That's the only way that he gets 14.